Call me Jack.
Call you Jack. And it's how do I pronounce? What is it? Is it
It's Joaquín.
Joaquín?
You know, like Joaquin Phoenix?
Yes. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay.
Right.
I'm I'm so stupid.
You obviously don't watch movies, huh?
Dude, I live under a cultural. We talked about that. I live under a cultural rock, but I'm so stupid that I showed my mom. I was like, I'm having him on tomorrow. And she goes, oh, Joaquin. And I go, oh, I thought it was Joaquin. And she looked at me and she how old are you? I was like, I'm 30. And I was like, yeah, it's like the actor Joaquin. And she was like, good Lord in heaven. And so
I get these calls now. Now in telemarketers, I get Joaquin. That's the new one now, Joaquin.
I could see it. I could see Joaquin.
So, hey, listen, you can call me anytime. Anything you want.
So I can't do your introduction justice. I did watch that video you sent me, the Daily Motion video, which I'll link in the description. That ending gave me chills. Because if they do come from me, they better come in numbers.
Hey, listen, that helps if you got 5 pit bulls and a stock full of weapons, all right?
Absolutely. You better have an armory, man. But before we dive into it further, how about you introduce yourself? Because I'm not going to be able to do you justice.
All right. Simply, my name is Jack Garcia. I was born in Havana, Cuba. I came to this country when I was 9 years old. Lived in socialism or / communism for nearly 3 years. Came to America with just clothes on our back. And from then on, learned how to speak English. Took me some time. Went into high school, played high school football. Fortunate enough to get scholarships. From then on, I started trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I saw the movie Serpico with Al Pacino. And there's this, Al Pacino, cool guy, a beard, long hair, living in the village, driving a motorcycle with a good-looking chick in the back. And to add to that, he had a sheepdog. I mean, where do I sign up for being a cop, right?
Yeah.
So unfortunately for me, it was back in the 70s when they were taking all kinds of cuts, the NYPD. So I didn't really know what to do. I floundered. I applied for all the federal agencies, got a job as a cop in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and boom, the FBI came, and I was just delighted. I did have to become a citizen first. Mm-hmm. Unbeknownst to me, I thought, that was, I didn't even think about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And what happened was I was watching Univision, and I saw this non-native Spanish speaker butchering the Spanish language, and he's saying, we're looking for Spanish speakers in the FBI. So I immediately called the FBI. I said, dude, man, I've already put my application a long time ago. I haven't heard from you guys. He gets back to me the next day and he says, because you're not a citizen. So I went in forward and became a citizen in 1976. And then I went through this scrutiny background investigation because I am born in Cuba. And after I got in the Bureau, I requested Freedom of Information Act and found all these CIA reports saying that in as much as that he's Cuban, the possibility of a mole could exist. Mm-hmm. So I dragged on all of this, series of polygraph, et cetera. Next thing you know, in 1980, I became an agent. I was trying to find my niche. Originally, I want to start getting involved in bank robbery, fugitives, some light terrorism with the Cuban anti-Castro group. And then the FBI started working narcotics in the early 80s. And boom, here I am in Natural. I got, a Spanish speaker and a guy who grew up in, in the Bronx. So, I didn't kind of represent the demographics of the FBI, is usually everybody there, I didn't mirror those demographics. They all looked the same. They wore 3-piece suits and all that. And I came along. So I was very lucky to start working undercover work. And that kind of became my little niche. I worked 24 out of my 26 years solely dedicated to working undercover. I worked over 100 major undercover operations and countless buy-bust, street buys, doing all these kinds of deals, mostly in the world of narcotics. From then I moved on to do other investigations, Russian cases, Asian organized crime, murder for hires, political corruption, police corruption. And then finally somebody said, hey, I think we can get you to pose as an Italian. And I think you could infiltrate the Gambino crime family. So then I said, I'll have what you're drinking, because that just that was caught me off guard. You know, I eat black beans and rice, menudos, and all the Cuban food. Now I got to eat pasta. You know, not that I'm complaining, you know, but it's something I had to do. Yeah. So I got in working undercover, and the case was over. We took down a lot of gangsters, and we kind of shamed them in as much as that, you know, I'm a Cuban-born guy posing an Italian. Got so close that actually was being proposed for membership to become a made man.
Yes.
And afterwards, I guess I did 26 years. I was getting a little tired. I want to retire at 20, then 25, 26. I said, you know what? I'm passing the baton. I wanted somebody else to come up and start, you know, doing what I was doing. I had enough, and I wanted to dedicate my time with my family since I just had a recent, my daughter was born in the year 2000.
Okay.
So I retired in 2006. I got a lot of book offers, and it kind of, in hindsight, I laughed because, you know, here I am, been working dopers, you know, the Mexican cartel, Dominicans. I've been working Cubans. I've been working Colombians, and they are more violent. They generate more money, and yet you don't see too much of it. I remember taking down tons of cocaine and not even make the newspaper. But you arrest one wise guy who's 70 years old, you got front page news. So, I mean, it's insane how Hollywood and the media is obsessed with organized crime, and yet those really bad guys are out there. And don't get me wrong, these guys are bad guys by all means. But why are we overlooking that other serious problem? It should have the same type of targeting as they do with the traditional organized crime guys.
Yeah. I mean,
and that kind of sums it up. And here I am with you, Tom.
And here we are. Well,
I'm sorry, you asked me my name. You go by Thomas? Because when I was out in the streets, you'd be Tommy. Yo, Tommy, what's up?
I'm Tommy. Most people know me as Tommy. But it all depends on what I'm going by, right? Family, Tom, right? 99% of people, Tommy. Got to be professional, collared shirt, Thomas, right? Right? If I just,
Right. Yeah. And your parents, Thomas, just like my parents, Joaquín.
Yeah,
you know?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's everyone always asks me, they're like, what do you prefer to go by? And like, I don't know. I never really thought about it. I don't really care. I don't know. Just generally look in my direction and yell. Yeah. So I've had a guy on here before, Paul Whitcomb, episode 96, who helped who rejected the final plea offer by John Wayne Gacy to get him the lethal injection, and he and I have become good friends over the last 4 or 5 months. And he's a brilliant guy as a lawyer in Chicago, but he's a really big historian on the Chicago outfit. And I texted him last night, and I was like, "Hey, Paul," I was like, "Look who I'm having on." Well, after he came on this podcast, he and some friends started a podcast because they got so hyped up on it. And he goes, yeah, and he sent me a link. And it wasn't Paul, but it was his friend. And it's you with him. He goes, yeah, we already had him on. And I was like, you just stole my thunder, man. I was just going to slide it in there. I was like, hey, Paul, look who I'm having on. He goes, oh, yeah, he's a cool guy. I talked to him. And I was like, fuck you, man.
Who was it? Is that the one with John Toohey?
Yes.
Yes, a great guy. John Toohey's a great author. And actually, I was in his show with Paul and a couple of the other guys.
Yeah.
But Toohey has written quite a few books on unorganized. In fact, I think he's taken over Facebook.
Yeah.
Everything in Facebook is some kind of new page.
Yeah, killers, clowns.
Very smart man.
Yeah, killers, clowns, and
it just goes on and on. I just read the beginning, new page, invitation, then I look at it and I say killers, clowns, and I go, hope I'm not in this thing, you know?
Well, that's
misfits, miscreants,
yes,
you know?
Yes, it's the whole, I'll link that too for anyone interested. Yeah, that's my buddy Paul. And I was like, I'm about to blow this guy away. And I sent it to him, and I was just like, cracking my knuckles, and I was like, because the other week I had on Charlie Duke, the youngest man to ever walk on the moon, one of 4 men alive.
Wow.
Well, I sent that to all my friends that work in like NASA, right? And oh, holy shit! And I'm brushing the dirt off my shoulders. Well, that's what I thought I was gonna do last night with Paul. I was like, hey, Paul, check it out. Just nothing. Oh yeah, he's a neat guy. I was like, you backstabbing son of a bitch. So
thanks for the recommendation. Right?
Yeah, right, yeah. So, but well, I need to get an episode with Paul in here with you. But so just listening to that 13-minute bit you sent me is, it's you're going through about like the small mannerisms and things that, and another one of the lines that kind of, I'm an anxious person just in general, and anything makes me anxious, really. I'll call someone and then I'll get anxious that they're going to pick up. Like, why the hell did I even call them? But you're talking about in there, and you're like, The Sopranos, you can do a couple takes. And you're like, with this, you go, there's one take. That's it.
That is true. That is the thing about Undercover. I've actually taught in the Undercover school at the FBI.
Yeah.
And also where there's invitations with people from foreign police departments that come. And of course, there are different laws governing undercover type work. France has what they call provocateurs,
yes,
or something like Inspector Clouseau or something. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, it's kind of funny when you do these schools. I know the FBI had a big influx of applicants when the movie Silence of the Lambs came out.
Yes.
Everybody wanted to get in the behavioral science unit, And now they watch Donnie Brasco came out a long time ago, and they hear about Undercover. That's not the way it works. Undercover work is not somewhere that you could go to a school and be taught this art.
Yeah.
This art is something you're born with, Tommy. It's something that we gather in the streets. We learn how to chuck and jive. We learn how to get along with people. We learn how to survive, how to get our way. That's, let's say a guy from maybe Midwest, he may not be exposed to the elements that we get exposed. Maybe he's not that outgoing. Maybe he's not like a chameleon. Maybe he's not comfortable around people that maybe he's not used to being around with, or environments that he's not used to be around. So these are things that are trades. And if you think you can go to school, those people usually flunk out. This is nothing you could teach somebody. You could fine tune it, but you certainly can't teach it. You're not going to come out of there and say, okay, I'm ready now to determine the psyche of John Gacy, the killer, because of A, B, and C.
Yeah.
No, this requires a lot of, quick reaction and action, where somebody puts you in a situation. How are you going to cope with that? How are you going to make that life decision? How are you not going to give yourself up? What are you going to do if somebody approaches you and says, Tommy, what are you doing? How are things in the FBI? So these are things that you naturally, you can learn as far as ways of doing it, but it's more like what on the street. Yeah. So what I had to do is, I think I was blessed from my upbringing that I had, where having grown in New York, and my personality is outgoing. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you said, and it's right, when you do undercover work, there are never any second takes.
None.
The only time there's a second take is if you finish your undercover and you realize your recorder is not on. And now you say to yourself, in today's world and climate, because early on when you started undercover work, an FBI agent stood in court and said, this is what happened, and it didn't happen this way. Now, that's because back then it was a different time. Nowadays, when you go to court, defense attorneys are going to come for the jugular. They're going to try to make you look bad. They look stupid. No one's going to believe you. So what better way to do it is wear a recorder. I always believe that the evidence against a criminal defendant, the best evidence for criminal defendants, are their own words. So it's indefensible if you catch Joey Bag of Donuts saying, I'm going to do this, or I did that.
Yes.
Where me standing there and saying it in court, it's not going to fly. So there is the time that you do the second take is when you say, that's the oh shit moment. Oh, it didn't come out. So what you do is you go back the next time you see them and you try to recap what you discussed. And that's where it takes experience cleverly. So now you could capture it again. Because otherwise, picture yourself in court. Agent Toms, I see here, you met this guy 20 times, 19 times were recorded. But yet, on this one here, you said that he said this and he said that. Now, why wasn't that recorded? Okay, where is that? So, you know what I mean? You're hurting yourself by not recording that person's own word. So if you don't capture that word, if you got some really incriminating stuff, you're going to try to recapture it, tape it, and of course now you have something. Otherwise, that other one is going to be tough to navigate in the courts.
And how do you I guess, like you said, yeah, it's, I guess, a learned, street smarts versus book smarts. Because if you got to get them to say the same thing again, how do you do that without just the most obvious, hey, could you say that? I mean, what, do you come in, do you just, say you're hungover, or say you're hungover, you're drunk, you don't remember, you bring it up again, do you feign stupidity?
That's a possibility. But also, you don't bring up things when you're on the cover. You have to look at the whole package. You have to look at the person you're talking to, evaluate their body language. You're not going to have somebody who's on a defense and you're going to start hitting them with A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
Because like, whoa, what are you doing? Are you recording me? What's up here? So what you have to do is you got to dance.
Yeah.
It's a dance. You got to find out where you can sneak it. Hey, remember yesterday, Tommy, you said this? I was thinking about that last night. What is it that you're talking about? You try to do it in a non-threatening, non-kind of you trying to get the information, because the last thing you want is that person to say, whoa, what is going on? Now, when it deals with somebody whacking somebody, killing somebody, there are rules in the mob that specifically say once that bullet leaves the gun, you never talk about it. The only person who could ask that question is the boss of the family. So me going to you, if you come up to me and say, hey, Jackie boy, guess what? I whacked Vinny bag of donuts yesterday. So then, what am I going to say? So then I can't go back to you and ask you, because then I start smelling.
Yeah.
I start smelling. So therefore, you may have lost that opportunity.
Yeah.
So it is a dance that you cover. I have the allergies.
You're fine.
So it is a dance that you play with the subject, trying to get the information that you can. Now, that's my preference. There are a lot of undercovers who choose not to wear for whatever reason, and I'm not going to say anything against that, for wearing a recorder. And some of them, of course, they don't want to get caught with it. And I get all that. There's a lot of chance of that possibility. But when you should wear a recorder, or when you wear a recorder, is that usually you got to feel comfortable with the person. And that is a very important thing, Tom. And I'll give you an example is, if right now I'm talking to you and you decide to pat me down.
Yeah.
Okay, because maybe you suspect that I'm a rat.
Yeah.
Or maybe that I'm recording you. Okay, now you don't find anything on me. Is your feelings about me or what you think about me, is that going to go away? No, you did it for a reason. You tapped me down for a reason. So I always felt that if that person ever was going to do that, for you to, it's a violation of trust.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When we don't go to a bad guy and say, hey, are you wearing a wire? Let me check underneath your shirt. Let me grab your cojons, things you don't do. So wearing a wire is dangerous. People don't choose to wear it for whatever reason. I respect that. That's their call to do. But I did it the easy way because I felt that if I had the wire on, I could get the guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I chose to wear a wire.
Yeah. I never thought about that. You're right. There's like a certain, it's like, if you're going to like bluff, if you're going to lie, like go in and embrace the whole thing. Like if they pat you down and they don't find anything, yeah, you're right. That feeling's not going away. They're probably just going to shoot you while you're sleeping. So it's just like,
right.
go
it's
all
a
in.
Distrust, right. They have a distrust for you. And so, sometimes, I mean, luckily in all the cases and people ever done, that's never happened to me. Now, why? Maybe it's my size. Yeah. I am an intimidating guy.
Yeah.
I admit it. I'm a huge guy, especially after Sunday dinners. But
hey, man,
maybe they fear that. But also, I always looked at that as a double-edged sword. Because as big as I am, if, let's say, for instance, I'm going to get whacked for some reason or other.
Yeah.
Now, somebody's going to whack me. Hey, maybe I'll say before I get whacked, I'm going to say, whoa, wait a minute, guys. Look. I'm an FBI special agent undercover, okay? I got guys outside. You guys are going to get killed. You can't do that. Now, picture this. They're going to probably say, well, what if this guy's telling the truth? No freaking way this guy is an FBI. He don't look like an FBI agent. So they call and find out, like, yeah, there's no FBI agent who's 6'4", 390 pounds. It just doesn't exist. So they would then say, let's whack him. This guy is a rat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as much as it got me in, it could also have taken me out.
Yes.
Because of your size and all of that. But it's a reality. I used my tools of my trade. My toolbox consisted of my size.
Yes.
It consisted of my way of talking to people, was my outgoing personality, try to diffuse them, not be, because, I never go into an undercover like a badass. I'm not Luca Brasi.
Yeah.
Because once you're up here, you can't go down.
Yeah.
But you could be friendly and say, hey, I could kick it up.
Turn it up.
We got issues. Let's talk about those issues.
Yeah.
But that's how I did it. I kind of kept an even keel to who I am.
Yeah. 6'4", 390. That's awesome.
You should see my sister. Oh, forget about it.
Good Lord. But you're right. I mean, yeah.
I'm only kidding. My sister's almost high.
She's going to whack you now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but it makes sense. I was gonna say, do you play poker? Do you gamble?
I used to, not that much.
Well, I was just
but I bet when I do play, yes, I'm very good in hiding my cards.
I was about to say, no, it seems like you like, because in general, it just seems like you like to gamble. That seems like a person that, like I've had on guys on this podcast that are from Delta Force, and at a certain point, like talking to them and like researching Delta Force, you realize you're like, these guys could go do anything they wanted. They chose to live at the tip of the spear because it's unlike anything else in the world, right? These guys are smart enough to get into Delta Force. They could go be a lawyer, a doctor, go make more money doing less work. That's not why they're in it. They're in it because they love America, but they're also in it because, like, hey, man, it's, you're Spartan. I feel like...
Yeah, but see, my thing is, and God bless the Delta Force guys and all of that. I mean, I love the military and all. For I was in it was for the high.
That's what I'm saying.
It's an adrenaline rush.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I said, do you like gambling? Because I'm like, this guy. I hope you don't mind if I cuss, by the way. Some guests don't like it. I realized you were in the you were almost made in the Gambino.
What do you think,
family.
the mobsters?
I was about to say, they're like,
just pardon me, sir. Get the fuck out of here! I'll smack you.
Yeah. Well, jeepers, guys. He might be in the FBI. He swoozled us. No, they're like, this motherfucker. I'm gonna skull fuck this dumb bitch, right? It's right.
I'm telling you, it's funny. I almost got a master's degree. My wife says to me, "You sound like a Gavon." I said, "You talk like every other word is f this, mofo that," and it took me a long time to get out of that mindset. When you're in this role, you come out and I'm talking with double negatives, triple negatives sometimes.
Yeah.
Pro. Hey, you can't do what I can't do.
You can't do what I say you never can do. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's all the thing. And then, and it's all like central casting. But getting back on your question, mine was an adrenaline high.
Gambling.
Like I love the fact of being in front of a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like he's a drug dealer, he's a murderer, he's a dirty cop, he's a mobster. And you're there and you're having maybe a drink and you toast the guy and you lift your glass up and your hand ain't shaking and you're looking him in the eye and he's buying your shit.
Yeah.
He's buying what I'm telling him.
Yeah.
I mean, how beautiful is that? Yeah. That's better than heroin. I don't know what heroin tastes like, but damn, this got to be better than that. To me, that was like Woody time, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing else in the world that's like that, right? It's
yes.
Another guy, Andy Stumpf, who's been on Joe Rogan. He's a former SEAL Team 6 guy. But Rogan's like, why do you like that? And he's like, because when the pilot of the helicopter is like 30 seconds out, 20 seconds out, 10 seconds out, he's like, you can like see each grain of sand moving. He was like, you're not thinking about your bill and your mortgage and your son's graduating kindergarten. He's like, you just see like the choppers moving. And he's like, and you can just, I mean, you're shooting an automatic, but you can see the individual. And he's like, it's just nothing else like that. And that's why I asked if you gambled. I'm like, this guy, and that's when I asked if you'd mind if I cuss. I'll say, this motherfucker, you like to go all in. You're right. Yeah, no, fuck meth, fuck heroin. It's like, that's why a lot of,
it was a natural high. But, same, I guess, with the military, you're right. It's it's just a feeling that you love, and that's why you do it. Sometimes you get an undercover and you got a guy who says, I worked this case, maybe a couple of cases. But, when you get the hardcore guys who've done this for a long time, guys like Jay Dobbins, Lou Veloz, Vince Cefalos, they're guys, of course, in the FBI that have done this where this is all you do. We didn't use this as a platform to become a boss. We didn't do this as a platform. This is just what we like doing. We were just regular street guys that lived off the high, to us. Yeah. Okay. What do you got? It was like a chess game too. Like here I am, I'm working one day posing as a Cuban drug dealer. Then I'm posing as a mobster. Then I'm posing as a Colombian. Then I'm posing as either a drug dealer, money launderer, warehouse guy, hitman. All of these roles, it was just like, like a method actor.
Yeah.
Which is in essence what you do. You get into your role, and just like in Seinfeld, with George Costanza, the guy says, well, you're not an architect. And he says, I'm not? I'm not a drug dealer?
What? No,
I'm not a gangster?
I'm a mob
boss.
About? Yeah.
Yeah, and it brings it with you. Like, you take on that persona. In the cases I worked, I never came home. But when I came home, my wife would see, like, somewhat of the changes. But she grew up in that lifestyle because her father was a homicide detective. So being the police, she knew that I was out there doing things. But picture that, I come in one day, I'm wearing a beautiful $4,000 Xenia suit. I'm wearing crocodile shoes. I'm driving a 500 Mercedes, and there's a Renault in the garage. Hey, how you doing? Diamond, 5 carats, solid gold Rolex, the crucifix. My nails are done.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Exactly. So, you get on this role, and the more you do, you become that person, because you have to become that person. You cannot not be that person, because that could be the mistake that can get you killed.
And that's, and that level of mistake. It's like, I mean, I imagine it's probably similar with like Secret Service, right? It's one thing if you botch a military operation, we can try next time. Man, if you're protecting the president, it's like one and done. You can't fuck this up. I imagine that's what it is you're walking on that wire.
Yes, exactly. And Tom, you mentioned something. I always keep this note to myself where it's so true about that. It says, bravery is not the absence of fear.
Yes.
But the mastery of it.
Yes.
Okay. And that has always sticks with me, because people, like even in the military and all that, or what I did, and no, it's kind of, look, you're afraid. I'd be lying to you if I said to you I was fearless. That I wasn't worried that I was going to get killed or decapitated by cartel guys, or family could have been. Of course it's fearful, but you cannot show them the fear. It's all about keeping it inside and keeping it real. Because if I said to you I wasn't afraid, I have no business working undercover. Yeah. Because then I'm reckless.
Yeah, you're fucked.
Yeah, and it's going to wind up getting me killed or somebody killed. So we know how to control our fear. Yeah, I'm afraid of freaking spiders, for crying out loud.
So am I.
Yeah. But around somebody, the mob was here, I let that spider crawl all up and down my head like this. Yeah. Like, hey, what the hell? What's this? Yeah. But if he wasn't there, I'm going, holy shit, what the hell is this?
Yeah. Hitting the high notes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's you're right though. It's the guy I have on here, the Delta Force guy, Dale Comstock. That's what he said is like when he was in the CIA, and he can't admit he was in the CIA, but when he was in the CIA training in Indige in like Afghanistan, he always said, he'd be like, you don't want fearless men. He's like, because they're stupid. They'll walk out and just get shot in the head. He goes, you want the guys that it's a healthy dose of fear and they know how to handle it. Or it's Hunter S. Thompson, the writer, said fear is like a wild beast. He said, keep it in front of you and let it pull your cart, but always keep a gun at it in case it turns back on you.
Another great saying.
Yeah, it's
true. It's true. And I've met guys who are undercover and they're like, they get offended if they're not saying, like one guy came up to me once and goes, hey man, I heard one of your things. You're saying that you were worried, you were feared. Well, yeah, hell I was. He goes, and he's full of shit.
Yeah, I mean, he's lying.
There is only superheroes are freaking fearless. Yeah. We all have it. But yeah, so getting on to that is becoming an FBI agent undercover or any undercover in an agency. It's a breed that is something that you're born that way, and the undercover program helps you fine tune by hearing other people's experiences. Like, for instance, what you just said about the bravery and all that, things like that sink in. And at times that you need to pull that tool from that tool shed, boom, you got it. Okay, it's the gun, making sure fear turns on you, you got it going. So it's the thing about it too, when you work undercover, you're really not viewed as one of the agents, because many a times I did a lot of undercover where I traveled the country. I had like these new agents that came out of Quantico in these little polo shirts and the little dockers.
Yeah.
I could smack these kids around, and they're telling me, look, I gave you here's a script, and I want you to do this. And I go, first of all, you can't operate out of a script.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could tell me what the parameters are, what you're looking to do. And guess what? If I don't get to it today, that's why God invented tomorrow. I'm not going to put myself in harm's way, blowing the case because you want A, B, and C done. It doesn't work like that. You're out there, you're massaging the guy, you're massaging the situation. You're trying to make it just right for you to hit him at the time it is, but not to commit something that's going to blow you away, And this is so. Anyway, I would say to these people is that you can't plan this. You can't, as an undercover, things are very fluid. They're constantly changing out there. Things could go wrong. Things could deviate. You got to be constantly with it. You can't stick to a script, which some of these people do. And then what happens is they get into it, goes, well, I want you to do it. I say, you want me to do it? Hey, pal, get your credentials.
Yeah.
And look at my creds. Tell me where your creds say anywhere that I am not the same as you.
Yeah.
So you don't tell me. I'm not a snitch.
Yeah.
Because I'm an FBI agent, just like you.
Yeah.
But what happens is some of these case agents confuse with themselves with that. So, of course, needless to say, I never took that undercover case, because if that guy was an asshole at this juncture, can you imagine what he would be at a later date?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it happens where undercovers, and then what happened, and it happened in my case, if you decide to go up the ladder, which very early on, I think I had like 6 years in the Bureau, I wanted to maybe pursue the management route. Now, why? I don't know. Maybe at that time, that's what I wanted to do. I was denied that. And I was denied because, quote, I had insufficient traditional investigative experience. Now, I was an agent. I was gathering evidence as an undercover, but yet I'm being denied administrative advancement. At that time, I was very angry and pissed off that I was denied. But in hindsight, the best thing that ever happened to me, because I would have never really gone into full-blown undercover agent.
Well, yeah, it's a blessing in disguise, but it's, I was going to say, and it shows how big my ego is and how arrogant I am. I'm like, oh, this podcast is kind of the same, as if it's the same as going undercover in the Gambino family. But what you said is scripting. When people are like, what are we going to talk about? I always tell them, I'm like, I have no idea. Like, so for everyone listening, you and I, what was yesterday? So we emailed on Saturday. We talked for 15 minutes on the phone yesterday.
Yes.
And then we did today. This is all just happening. I don't do, some people like questions and I get it. Like, sure, okay, got an image to protect. But that's what this is, and it's the same thing, though. It's like, it's live, it's flowing, it's shifting, and it's what are we doing? Are we moving from here to here to here to here? And it's, it's not just, all right, Jack, why don't you tell me about what was your scariest moment, and we'll be back with these messages from our sponsors. No, fuck out of here, right? No, we're going to talk about whatever, right?
And those are the best because it's fluid. You're right. I mean, I've been on podcasts before and even radio shows that say, we're going to ask. I said, listen, I'd rather you don't give me a script because I like to make it come out on my own. I don't want to have a rehearsed conversation because somehow you lose something on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I like your concept because, again, you came very well recommended from a guy whom I like and respect.
Thank you.
I think
Bruce.
One of your guests,
Bruce Sackman,
Sackman. And, I said absolutely to it. Like, you're right. We spoke very briefly. You never said, we're going to talk about A, B, or C. It just happened. Whatever happens, we could sit here and twiddle our thumbs for all we could have known,
It's whatever we talk about. Yeah, it's you got to kind of flow with that because if you don't, it gets so stale. It's almost like that quote. It's like talking about like love. It's like love is a lot like a fart. If you force it, it's shit.
Short.
Yeah, right? Well, I feel that's what the podcast is. If you force it, it's pure shit. So, but then, to twist back, I was thinking, as you get more and more into it, and you said, like, you come home and you're wearing all this, one thing I was like, I almost got this image of, like like a sort of temporal inertia, where it's like you know, in those not old, I say old, right? It shows how young I am, but like I think of like 80s basketball games, like Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. I'm just thinking of all the old like replays. The lights on the old cameras, they kind of like blur and they bend. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I kind of see that as with like your personalities. It's like blurring and bending, right? You're coming home and you're still this mob boss, and it's like kind of blurring off of you, and it slowly fades away, and then you become, right, husband, father, right? But to jump from that, did it ever start to, you mentioned in the interview on 60 Minutes, you're offering the guy jewelry, iPods, and then the greed kicks in. Does the greed ever kick in? Are you wearing all these diamonds and the watch and the Mercedes and the suit? At some point, are you just like, fuck it, I'm a mob boss? Are you just like, fuck it, I'm going to double agent, sell out the FBI?
No. You know, that's a good question, but it isn't. Although we've had guys who've gone to the dark side.
Yeah, how can you not?
We've had agents who've been undercover who have gotten in, and we have also agents whose life have been upside down. They have developed drinking problems, and not just agents. I'm talking about police officers as well. Guys who resort to going back to their old haunts because they were kind of respected in these places. Guys whose marriage has been affected. Guys who have taken on all kinds of issue. Even a couple of guys have gone into stealing from stores that have been caught. The only thing that I got bad out of coming out of undercover was the fact that I love to eat. So I got a taste of the good food and the good life of eating. But hey, you know what? It was weird because what you were mentioning, it's true. The Bureau, not only was I selling stuff, posing myself as a fence or as a guy in the mob case, I had a crew of Mariel boat lift Cubans who were doing home invasions from drug dealers. So their goods like Rolex watches, diamonds, furs, etc., I was able to sell to the mob guy that I was putting the captain at a very discount price, and his guys sold her for a higher price. So I came out like I was an earner, a guy who was making money. You know, but I did have to, of course, I had the obligatory rings and stuff. But as I switched roles, like if I went to become a drug dealer, I became a different person. I would then wear what they have these beads. They were different of Santeria. I don't know if you're familiar with Santeria. It's the occult religion, which a lot of these Cuban drug traffickers and Hispanic drug traffickers adhere to. So I became that. I would wear a guayavera, very expensive silk guayavera. I would wear this Juvenia solid gold watch. So I became that. I would have my earring on, which you didn't wear an earring when you're with the mob. That's not, you don't do that. So, and of course I couldn't grow my mustache at the time, but a beard. But that's what you do. You assume the role, and these were the uniform, you know, that, and every time I did that, I became that person on my way to doing it, because I had apartments all through the city, different cases. I became that person. I would put the Latin salsa music on, you know? When I was with the Italian, I put some operas on because I love some of the arias from Puccini. And then if I was doing, so it was always becoming that person. So when I finally arrived and I opened that door, I was Manny Fernandez. I was Jose Montoya. I was Jack Falcone. You see, so you have to think that way. You have to think of who your character is, and be careful. Unfortunately, what I did was I worked multiple cases, and a lot of them was simultaneously, which is a big no-no, and I don't recommend anybody to do. But yet I was probably the only agent doing that. So I did these multiple cases with multiple characters, and in hindsight, yeah, they were great for the FBI, but it wasn't great for me.
No.
I mean, it took a lot off me. It took a lot. There were times I'm carrying 5 phones, 5 different identities. I'm talking Spanish here. I'm talking Italian like a wise guy. I'm talking like a dirty guy here. So all of these things, and it were nonstop. There was no day off. So that's why when I did come home, which was very, very, very rare, you know, and one of the things that I always give credit to is for my wife.
Absolutely.
I mean, the fact that she endured this, the fact that she supported this, is made my job safer and I think successful. And by safer, I mean is if you get in a situation with your spouse when you're fighting about this, because I've missed weddings.
Yeah.
I've missed all of the events we could do, some holidays as well. But when you miss that, and if your spouse just starts beating you up about it, like you did this, how dare you, now you're going to do your undercover with your head all confused.
Yes.
And you can't have that. You can't have the confused word about it. You got to have a clear head because you're working. You're a method actor. You're out there doing it. You don't want to have disturbance about what's going on and feeling bad. So a lot of my success, and I think as undercovers, always do go to the spouse, whether male or female, because they're the ones who kind of support you and don't get on you. Now, once the case is over, it's a different story.
Yeah.
You know, now where are you going? Who are you talking to?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, now you're not off the hook. Yeah, you're right. It's because you can't have your head fucked up going into work like that. Your home life has to be stable.
Exactly. Listen, and I've seen guys do that with issues, and there's the things you cannot have, you know, and that slip could really, take you over the top,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, speaking of allergies, I'm gonna take my.
Are you like me? I got allergies all over the place.
Dude, I'm falling apart. I don't know how I've lived to 30. I should have been dead a while ago.
Hey, listen, I'm surprising people every day. I just hit 68 years old, all right? So let's...
I saw that, yeah. I was like...
I wasn't even... Vegas had me not make it checking out at 55.
Jesus Christ. That's brutal. It's... Yeah, man, but I guess... Now, how does... You said that you had contingencies, right? So if they say, hey, was it Omerta, the blood pact?
The code of silence, right.
Yeah, the cement of blood, what the Nazis called it. If they were going to say, you're going to go whack this guy, and you said, you had it all planned out, you were going to have a heart attack, right? And did you have other contingencies? Like, what if you start losing your cool? What if anxiety comes up? Is it just, even though you're not an anxious person, even though you said you lived for this, did you just plan for it as a contingency? I don't, I hope my house never gets flooded, but you buy flood insurance just in case. Did you ever have something? Do you have like a Valium, or do you have like a shot? But a serious question, because fighter pilots, they have stimulants.
Okay, there's a lot to dig in there. Okay, the first part. Oh my God, repeat the first part.
Sorry, I tend to do that. I rattle off.
No, that was good. I had it in my thought, and then I went the other way.
Put it over. Omerta, blood.
Blood, right.
Yes.
Right. Now, one of the things, a big fallacy, and I guess Hollywood has promoted, you don't have to kill somebody to get straightened out. Okay? You could be called upon to kill somebody, or you could be called upon to be part of the hit. So it would be, Tommy, you dig a hole. Okay? Jack, you be the getaway car. Joey, I want you to be the block car, and you go dig another hole. So that's part of it. The shooters, they have shooters to handle that. What they were looking for and have always been looked for are earners. Guys who are going to make money, so the money flows always, and the bureau goes up. Mm-hmm. Never does it come down. So they want these earners to go out there, shake down businesses, put companies on record where they're going to give Christmas bonuses, where they're going to do payments, where they're going to be able to put money in their pocket. That's what it's all about. Now, if they want to whack somebody, they have those guys. But half of those guys, they couldn't even add 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
So they get to do is whack people because they're just psychopaths who would do that.
Yeah.
But it's not a criteria that you got to whack somebody. There are guys who've never whacked anybody who are in the mob for years. Now, getting back to the second point of it all was that, what are my plans? Okay. I talked about that on 60 Minutes, that, if that ever came up, I would, of course, I had a good excuse, which will bring us to part 2 in a minute. But what happened is I would feign that I'm having a heart attack. Hey, look, it's going down. And 2 things would happen. Either they would take me to the hospital and I would be able to make a phone call because I had it all prearranged with the case agent, this guy named Nat Parisi and Chris Munger, that they would know that, hey, go find this guy, track him down, and stop whatever's going on, okay? Or number two, they could just open the car door, throw my fat ass out, and I'd be dead with a heart attack.
Yeah.
So we don't really know. So because, with them, like, hey, we got to whack the guy to hell with him.
Yeah.
He's having a heart attack. Hey, have a nice day, you know?
Yeah. Dead weight.
So any of those things could have happened. But the contingency plans that we didn't have outside of communication. Like every once in a while, if I was in a place, whether it was a social hall or I was at a restaurant for an inordinate amount of the usual time that I was in there, I would get a call from the guy outside posing as my gumad, my girlfriend. And he would say, hey, how you doing? I go, oh, yeah, baby, listen, I might be here a little longer. I could see you later, probably another hour, sweetie, okay? Well, I'm talking to a guy uglier than me, you know?
Well, hey, I think all guys are uglier than you because you're beautiful, Jack. You're beautiful, but right? So
I would do that, to cover myself. Now, what you said, the second part is so true. That happened with me. What happened is I joined the union, which was a big thing for the FBI to do, a dirty union, Local 305, where the reason you joined the union is for your medical coverages for you and your wife.
Mm-hmm.
So the captain corrupted this union. And what happened is he says, look, guys, I want to take everybody in to get a physical. So, of course, you go to a mob-friendly doctor. So unlike you and I, when we now go to a doctor, you sit and you wait for an hour or two, right, reading stupid old magazines. You walk right in. So we walked in, 5 guys. We get 5 sitting around. The doctor goes, all right, guys, you go here, you go there. Well, they found out that I have atrial fibrillation.
Okay.
Now, the FBI never knew that. Now, I get this fibrillation. I had to know what is an irregular heartbeat, et cetera, right? So, of course, they gave me what they call a Holter monitor, which at that time was big, and they plug you up like an EKG.
Mm-hmm.
And the old man was with me. The old man, I mean the captain of the Gambinos. And he says to me, look, Jackie, I'm going to the diner. You handle what you got to handle here and meet me at the diner. So now I'm getting worried because I'm hearing atrial fibrillation, your heart, irregular beat. Am I going down? My family, I'm like fluttered. But then I said, okay, I got to stay the course. Let's do this test. I'm doing the way any doctor would, right? So doctor says to me, look, Jack, whenever time you're doing and you change something you're doing, like if you walk, you walk for 5 minutes. You were sleeping for 8 hours, whatever the case, you jot that down. So he wires me up. I go to the diner. I'm a nervous wreck. I walk in. We're sitting down. Right, guys are eating, you name it, sausage and bacon and eggs and whatever. And all of a sudden, the old man smacks the table real hard and he says, we got a problem. And everybody's looking at us. About maybe 7, 8 guys. He goes, what's going on? He goes, we got a rat among us. So then I go, what do you mean we got a rat? What's going on? Everybody's saying, who is he? I'll kill the fucking guy. Who is he? So he gets up, he's walking around, he walks by me, right? And he says, it's Jackie Boy. He rips my shirt, and I got these freaking suction cups of this marker thing on.
Yeah.
And I did a classic Jackie Gleason, humana. I said, Craig, what are you doing? So he goes, you're the rat. You've been recording us, haven't you? And I go, right, what are you talking about? You know what's going on. And then he smiled, laugh. And he goes, Jackie got a bad ticker. The doctor put that on. I'm fucking with you, Jackie Boy. So I'm sitting there totally trained, right? So little did he know that I actually was wearing a recorder, but I had it down my shorts. But that tape is priceless, okay? I'm going to sell that tape on eBay,
Jesus,
by the way.
God in heaven.
But wait a minute. The next day I go back and I give the doctor the machine and he puts it in the computer. It comes back. You see a straight line, then you see beep, exactly. And he goes, holy shit, what happened over here? And I go, what happened over there? Greg the Palmer called me a rat. That's what happened over there.
Holy shit.
So you talk about contingency. Now what happens is now I'm worried. The story goes on. I says, I got to get this checked. The guy goes, listen, I need you to do an echocardiogram. I need you to do this. I'm booking you for the next day. Unlike you, 6 months from now, I got the next day, you're going into Manhattan.
Yeah.
You're going to do an echo. I go to the echo. I'm sitting there. Thank God I went by myself because my apartment was in Manhattan. This place was in Manhattan. So Greg goes, you want me to go with you? I go, no, Jack. No, Greg, that's fine. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden they plug me around, and I see these busy bees running around, and I'm going, oh, this doesn't look very good with all these nurses and doctors. And the guy says to me, hey, doctor comes over and goes, hey, you feel anything? And I go, no, why? He goes, well, your heart rate was like 300 or whatever it was, some astronomical number. So he goes, you got to go right into the emergency room. And I go, what are you talking about? So he goes, yeah, your heart rate. He says, and I really didn't feel a thing. So I said, wait a minute. So now I'm in the quandary. What do I do? This is a case that I'm working, okay? This is not my life. I said, if I call my wife, I know the answer to that, okay? If I call the case agent and tell them what's going on, they're going to pull the plug, okay? So I go to the emergency room by myself. Of course, I couldn't call the old man because then all the guys would come.
Yeah.
And I'm more worried about Jack Garcia, the agent, not Garcia, the mobster.
Yeah.
So I go in, they give me all this medication and all of that, boom, it gets controlled. Now, the next day, I of course, called up the case agent. I told him, look, I'm okay now. It just have an ongoing atrial fib. I got to be checked. So I told my wife and I told him, he says, well, look, I got to go on record with this. I said, look, do me a favor. Don't go on record with this yet. Okay, let it play out. We don't want to, I know what the Bureau is going to do. They're just going to shut it down. Mm-hmm. We make so many strides. We're getting too close. As long as I'm taking the medication that I'm supposed to be taking, what's the difference? So we kept that hush while I continued with that. So that just kind of shows that the contingency plans could be out the window when reality kicks in. Yeah. Just like another example, if you don't mind telling you another example.
No, please, go.
Was, if you remember, you may be a little too young for this, but they used to have Nextel phones. Mm-hmm. Nextel was a walkie-talkie phone. You familiar with that? Mm-hmm. Right. So I gave the old man a Nextel phone, which of course we wired.
Yeah.
All right. So he had a new toy, and his toy was he would Nextel all day long. Jackie boy, where are you? Hey, Joey, where are you? Where are you? And he loved it. And he put it in volume so everybody could hear.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, one time he calls me. I'm down in Florida because every time I went to work another case, I would say I got a score down there, and then I would come back. Sometimes I give him some money. Other times it didn't go through. So I'm down in Florida. He calls me up. Hey, Jackie boy, and I'm working with these Colombian cartel guys, So I put it on mute, didn't answer him. Come back up. He says, I want to see you right now. So I went to see him early in the morning, and he says, how come you didn't pick up the phone yesterday? He says, Greg, I was down there in Florida. I said, I don't give a shit where you were. When I call you, you answer me. You understand? I go, well, what's the matter? He goes, how do I know you weren't arrested last night? How do I know you ain't cooperating? I said, you got to be kidding me. He goes, from now on, I don't care what you're doing. You pick up that phone. I says, all right, you got it, boss. No problem. So months go by. My mother-in-law passes away. Loved the woman, right? We're at the wake. Of course, I can't tell the mobsters this is my real life.
Yeah,
because they would send flowers. They would come in and show their respect.
Yeah.
And can you imagine, like, Aunt Matilda sitting next to, Vinny Bag of Donuts, and he's going, hey, how you know this guy?
How do you know?
I go, oh, Matilda, he's an FBI agent. He's such a nice guy.
Shit, that'll be that funeral will turn into a much bigger funeral real quick.
Exactly. So all of a sudden, I hear that beautiful voice, and he had that gravelly voice. Jackie boy, pick up the phone. So what do?
You pick up the phone. Jesus.
What do? I picked up the phone. I went outside.
Walk right out.
Because I know if I didn't pick up the phone, it would set me back. Well, that, and it would set me back on all the progress I made.
Okay.
Now, did I want to pick up the phone? Hell no. And this is where your spouse comes into play. She did not, she understood. So I was grateful for that. But think about that. When you're working undercover full time, you're undercover all the time. you never know it's going to happen. So I had to do a dance of making sure that I couldn't release that I was at a funeral home, because why am I not there? There was so much accountability that I really didn't want to. I separated my lives. Was it tough? Yes. I went to dinner when waiters tripped themselves over to treat me, Jack Falcone, because I knew Greg De Palma and I was in his crew. And when I went as Jack Garcia, I went like all of us do. You wait in the bar until your table is ready.
Yeah.
You work like a regular schmo that we are.
The end of
So
good.
I went from VIP to whatever. We'll get to you. Your table's not ready yet, sir.
Yeah.
And then the table is ready right by the freaking kitchen. So that was the treatment. But these are things that, that happened to you as undercover, and the change in life that goes on. And I went from wearing a Rolex watch. My wife bought me a Rolex watch when I retired from the FBI, because she knew I had one, but not the president. But hey, you know what? It's okay.
Rolex.
I mean, I wore it for years, and then all of a sudden I got to get like a Seiko or a Timex, you know?
Yeah.
So I went from my, so it was all kinds of adjustment to get out of it. But what felt great is that the phones don't ring. Now I don't bother checking half the time what messages are. Back then it was always constantly phones going off, voices here, not picking up. But the difference was when you deal with the mob, Tom, is a lot of accountability. Okay, there's a lot of deference that has to be shown to mobsters. Where when I was working the dope cartels, if you call me, the way they do business, if you call me, I'll get around to calling you. Or I'll text you certain codes that have been pre-programmed that they know their meanings. But when I do see you, I don't get that, why didn't you pick up the phone? I don't get where were you? Because they have their own little style. I don't have them anything to know. We're just a business deal. So when you deal with the mob, all of that accountability is important in the mob world. They need to know where you are, who are you, where did you come from. And I was very fortunate that I, through the help of the FBI, created an airtight case about me that could have gone any type of scrutiny. And even I took it a next level up. When I was in Florida working a case, I said, you know what? I told them the story that my parents died a few years back and that I was from Miami, Florida. So let me ask you this, Tom. You're down with the old man, and all of a sudden he says to you, hey, let's show respects to your family. Let's go to the cemetery, drop some flowers off. What are you going to do?
Oh, fuck.
Well, I found a Mr. and Mrs. Falcone in Florida. I would take you to that place. I would put the flowers and hope that the real family would not come. But I wanted to cross every T and dot every I.
Yeah.
Because that's the way that they work.
Yeah.
So, you want to make sure that there's no stone left unturned. And just like getting back when I was with the old man, Greg De Palma. Greg De Palma was a celebrity in New York. And why? He used to own the Westchester Premier Theater, which is a place where Frank Sinatra played in the 70s. Sammy Davis, Dean Martin, Bette Midler, Dionne Warwick, Diane Ross. You look up on eBay, look up Westchester Premier Theater, and you can see all the programs of all the people. That was a mob joint.
Okay.
That was owned by the mob. That was before Atlantic City came in, that they owned this place. And it's also the place with a famous photograph when Frank Sinatra is around these mobsters that showed up at a Senate hearing, and his arm is around Greg De Palma, the guy I was with, and Paul Castellano, who was the eventual boss who was killed by Gotti, Carlo Gambino, Jimmy the Weasel Fradiano, all of these guys that was taken in the back of the concert that came back to haunt Frank, whether he was a patsy for the mob or was he a patron saint.
Yeah.
That came out. But the Westchester Premier, so every time we went out, you would get these distinguished, well-dressed, gentlemen, coming up and says, hey, Mr. De Palma, I loved your club. I went there and I saw Dionne Warwick. I saw Sonny and Cher. I saw Elvis. and they would come up, and then Greg would stand there, and he would ask for a card, your business card. And as they were talking to the guy, literally kissing the mobster's ass, I'm going to myself, run for the hills. What are you doing here? This guy's going to try to get in your pocket.
Yeah.
So sure enough, after he left, he would say, oh, this guy does it. And he would store them. He would carry with him about this many cards that he would pick up from fans, people who loved what he ran at this Westchester Premier Theater. But his thing was, how do I get to put their money exactly in their pocket? Because there's one thing about mobsters. They're excellent in detecting the weak and those that could be subjected to extortion plots. And Greg De Palma was a master at it.
Jesus. And I was going to say, yeah, gets even hairier with Sinatra, because then you got Sinatra hanging out with JFK. And the whole thing gets a little hairy, huh?
Well, listen, Frank Sinatra was a regular. I saw all the pictures that Greg De Palma had. He appeared, I think, 4 times at the Westchester premiere. One time they scammed him. They told him that he was going to get the, what's the name of the special medal that it's giving to a secret kind of society. And it was all a setup. And then he said, what else can I do? So they set up an event that Frank appeared, and all that money that's supposed to go to Frank went into the mob's pocket. And it was called, it's a very old traditional, oh my God, it skips me. Anyway, I know I wrote it in my book, but that's the kind of thing is that they are just looking for people to put their hands in their pocket. And Frank was one of them, Dionne Warwick, Diana Ross was on there. So the who's who. I remember going there when I was in college. I went there on a date. It was like the hottest thing to do. All the bands would go.
Yeah. And
then later on, who knew that I would take down that guy, you know?
Good Lord. It's to circle way back around. I don't know why it just popped into my head. You said I remember you saying cash flow always goes up. Does that mean the FBI supplying you with cash is always going up?
No, that means
or as an earner.
Yeah.
Earner. Okay.
The way the mob operates, this is probably for the.
Oh, you meant higher. You meant going up the chain. I thought you meant constantly having to up the amounts.
No. What would happen is, as you know, let's say if I'm what they originally do, the mobsters, they put a guy on record.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, on record means that now you're under our umbrella, our protection. Then you move to an associate, which is usually on record you are a connected guy or associate. Then when you get straightened out and you go through this ceremony, you become a soldier. And that soldier reports to a captain. So each family has a whole bunch of captains. Under them are soldiers and associates.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the administration, which is the consigliere. There is the underboss, and then there's the boss. So now if a associate, let's say because of the help or somehow an introduction to something makes money, he greases the soldier. Soldier in turn gives money to the captain. The captain in turn kicks it up on top. Now, the guy I was with was very, very savvy because he knew, unlike a lot of guys who don't want to let go of their money, but you have to, because, hey, listen, this is what the life is. They have to. He gave a little more because he felt that by giving a little more, if he stepped on his crank, that was going to help him. And I think that was a magic formula how it helped Greg throughout his life. Okay. He always loved to give more to the board, made himself like valuable, you know?
Okay.
So, but it's always idea of kicking money up. You can't hang out with the mob just because you're a funny guy, you're a witty guy, you're an intelligent guy. You hang out with the mob and you're protected by the mob if you're making money for the mob.
Absolutely.
If you have some kind of use for them. If you don't have a use for them, then you're just a civilian.
Yeah.
You know, but these guys who are associates, a lot of them aspire to become made men. But not everybody wants to become a made man, nor does everybody who's an associate ever gets to become a made man. To become a made man, usually a soldier and a captain have to agree that you're a guy who plays by the rules. And by that, I means you kick money up. By that, I means you keep your mouth shut. You're a guy who is who could do jail time. You're a guy who's capable of violence. So if you have those makings and you're a guy who is trusted, respected, and proven, then they put your name on the list, and then you have a swearing-in ceremony if everybody agrees, and then you become a made man. And mostly what that does, it lets you operate with a brand. Now you have standing in the criminal world. And then if you have time and you are proven to be a guy who is able to do a lot of things, you may get a promotion to a captain. Captains are very powerful position. And then, of course, comes the boss and all of that. But it's all about the making money. The more money you make and the more money you kick up, the more influence you have in that particular family.
Okay. So the FBI, now I guess, actually it might still kind of work what I was saying. So does that mean that the FBI is giving you more? Because it's like, hey, we're essentially buying Jack bargaining chips. You're buying like social standing.
Well, yes and no. How they work is, like I said, if I got along with Greg De Palma, the captain. In fact, I became his driver. Okay. And I was very personal with his family and all of that. I was in with him, but also I did the right thing by him. Now, being an FBI agent, you can't be involved in doing crime.
Yeah.
So we gave the illusion that I was committing crime, and that illusion with those Cuban Mario guys that I had in Miami that were doing, stick-ups, smash and grabs. They were making money. So what we would do is we would go to the Bureau's forfeiture vault.
Yeah.
And there's all these watches we got from drug dealers and all this stuff that we got through forfeiture. And then I represented them as me getting that stuff.
Okay.
Or my crew. So then I would then give it to them at a discount price to show that, hey, I'm a kind of guy who is doing what mobsters are supposed to be. And I'm earning money, and I'm making money. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. It was a Rolex with all diamonds. And he said, how much you want from me? I said, well, you know what? I'll give me 5 G's. I know a reason why I'm not going to my fence, because it's too distinguishable up here, down there in Florida. And I don't want it, eventually catching up. I'm here in New York. No problem. I'll move it. He moves it for 5. He moved it for 15. So he puts 10 G's in his pocket. So, now I don't have to give him money, but I gave him the watch for 5,000. So we made money. Now, every once in a while, I would give him an envelope and said, look, I did pretty good on something here. Here's $2,000. Here's a taste, we used to say. Here's a little taste for you. Now, what was funny about Greg De Palma and how the minds of mobsters work, I drove him around. So we came around collection time. We would go see this guy, he put the envelope here. We go see that guy, he put the envelope there. We see this guy in the pack. By the time I got around, he's loaded up with envelopes, this guy, right? And then he would say to me, as I drove him home, he goes, Jackie boy, he goes, I'm hurting. I don't even have 2 cents to put together. Who is he kidding? I drove him. I saw the envelope.
Motherfucker.
Right? So, of course, I would say, what do you need? Some money? Yeah, I could use a hunch, which was 100. So I say, here you go. I give him 100. Now, it's the nature of the beast.
Yes. Yeah,
it's what they do.
Yeah.
It's something that it's all about making money with them. So to him, I got like a chuckle out of it, but it's what they do. I remember another time I went with him to frame some pictures that he got from Leroy Neiman that he stole from Leroy Neiman, because I took him to Leroy Neiman's house. Anyway, he stole these pictures, so he's having them framed so he could sell it for like an outrageous amount to some of his rich buddies or those people that kiss his ass at a restaurant, right?
Yeah. So
anyway, he's going out the store. There are these little webkins, these little dolls of Doug. So he's standing there and he's putting them in his pocket. I go, what are you doing? He says, what do you think I'm doing? He says, well, we'll buy them. What is it, $5 each? He goes, no, Jackie boy. He goes, that's not what it's all about. I can't help myself. This is what we are.
Yeah.
It's the thought of stealing. He did the same thing to me at this clothing store in New York that is well recognized. I took him in there and he's stealing ties and socks. And I said, what are you doing? he just can't help themselves. They're born thieves, and this is what they do.
Yeah.
It's a whole psychological study about the mentality of mobsters and how they are. Now, I know a lot of mobsters are not like that. This just happened to be him.
Yeah.
But there you have a mixture of everything. You got some guys who are generous, some guys who are tight, and some guys who rob you all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's, Jesus, I was gonna say, yeah, it's probably a bit of a power move too, right? I'm hurting, and he knows full well that you know that he's got money. It's a power move, and he knows that you're gonna say, "Gotcha, here's here's 100," right?
Right. Yeah. And he doesn't need that 100 because every time we went out to dinner, somebody paid the meal.
Yeah.
I paid the meal. He never went in his pocket. He was like that Geico commercial of the alligator.
Yeah.
He has those little arms. He never went in his pocket.
Yeah.
He also used to say, "Crime don't pay. That's why I don't pay. Crime don't pay."
Well, joke's on him, I guess, right?
Yeah, at the end, he wound up doing jail time.
Yeah.
I think he got sentenced to 12 years, and then he died in prison.
Yeah.
But he was a tough guy, and he loved to talk, and we in the FBI loved to listen. So it was a great match. I mean, we could have gone a different direction, but this guy was the gift that kept on giving. I mean, he would tell me where the meeting was to drive him the next day. I put the surveillance on them. Then he would tell me what the meeting was about. You know, it was a really fascinating relationship. And people always ask me, well, you know, were you close to him? Because he was close to me, I thought. No, because I knew what he was, you know? I mean, I've done a lot of guys as undercovers that I've actually tried to talk out of doing bad stuff. Like I talked to them with them. I said, "You sure you want to do this?" I said, "You know, you're moving into a different territory." And I think I even wrote that in my book about one guy in Atlantic City. Like, "What? Are you sure? You know, this is not what you do, man. Why are you getting involved?" "Oh, I could make some money." I said, "Make money some other way."
Yeah.
And then when they get locked up, you say to yourself, "Well, I told you not to do it."
Yeah.
You know, because it's something that, you know, where Greg De Palma, it's all he ever wants to do. That's all he ever wanted to be, is a criminal. And he really believed in the core of what a gangster is. He believed he was true Cosa Nostra. Yeah. That's what he was. He lived that life because that's what only life he knew.
Yeah. And didn't want anything else. I was thinking, it's like the end of Goodfellas, right? You order what was it? You order Alfredo and you get like microwave lasagna. He goes, "You got to stand in line like every other schmuck," right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm telling you, that whole world it really is an amazing world, the way it works, and you know, and also they do a lot of side dealings, and even though we know it's a criminal secret society, it's all about the money, and it's all about getting over, and a lot of the rules that are not written but that are known, like you know, are violated all the time. Like it says you can't cheat on your wife. Well, forget about that.
Yeah.
Number one, they say you can't rob from other friends. They do that all the time. There's always breaking up rules, but they do have some interesting rules. Like for instance, what I've always fascinated is how they talk to one another. So let's say, Tommy, you're a member of the Colombo crime family,
sure.
Okay? One of the 5 families in New York. And I'm a member of the Gambinos, okay? Now, there's another guy, we'll say Joey Pots and Pans, okay? Now, Joey Pots and Pans, you want to talk to him. Now, you as a made guy know that he's a made guy, but you've never been introduced. So you can't go up to him and go, "Hey, Joey, you remember me? I know so-and-so." That's a secret criminal society. That doesn't work that way. So you're going to need to find the guy, if you want to talk to Joey Pots and Pans, a guy like me who knows you and knows Joey. So then I would then bring the 3 of us together and I would say, "Tommy, I want you to meet Joey. He's a friend of ours."
Okay.
That's telling you you're part of us.
Okay.
Now, if you weren't a made guy, and that tells you could talk to you because you're part of the secret criminal society. But if I said to you, "Tommy, I want you to meet Joey. He's a friend of mine," that tells you, be careful what you tell this guy. He's not one of us. He could be trusted, but he ain't one of us. Make guys who take the oath have that protection, so to speak. They are all talk among themselves and exclude even those faithful associates who for years have been associates. They're not part of that inner circle. So those introductions that would say, when I used to go around, I would go, I want you to meet two other mobsters that I would meet. Yeah, this is Jackie Boy. He's a friend of mine. So right away, the guy knew. He says, come here, Greg, I want to talk to you. So he pulls the guy over. So they talk mob business. But it was good for me because then when Greg got back in his seat, he said, oh, this guy wants me to do this and that. He wasn't supposed to be saying that, Greg DePalma, but he did. So that's the identification process that they undergo. So I think personally that's pretty clever.
Yeah.
To where you don't go talking to people, you haven't been introduced, so you got to keep your mouth shut in that world.
Yeah. I got to go piss real quick. We're at an hour and 15 minutes. I know you said that's your time. I can keep talking if you'd love to keep. I'm having a blast.
Why don't we do it on the second trip? You want to do
okay, we'll do the second trip. All right, we'll wrap this one up then. Yeah, I told you, I'll sit here for hours. I've kept one guy for 4.5 hours. He was a military interrogator.
No, you got me beat. I got errands to run for my wife.
Yeah, I had a military interrogator, and I think I interrogated him. But it's I was gonna say I still have a ton of fucking questions. So
save it for another day.
Well, I'm gonna get your book, and we can do all this later. I'll text you, and we can figure out the next episode. Let's definitely do another episode because this was just off the top of the head. This was going. Now I'm going to do some research. I want to get some questions, and we're going to go into it. And all
right,
yeah. Thanks for doing it, man. That was awesome.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure, Tommy, and we'll talk soon. All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. God bless. Stay safe, and till next time, Jack Garcia.
All righty.
All right, my man. You stay safe, brother.
Take care. Stay safe.
But you too.
Okay.
Bye-bye. When I popped off, then you grew baby.